Good morning, beautiful Belize. Yes, I don't know, the pretty bad man. I don't even know that. But to myself. But we're jumping into our fourth conversation for today, like I tell you, jam-packed, right? But we're here with the Wildlife Conservation Society of Belize and talking about the fire season this year. And we're going to be talking about the Maya Forest Corridor Fire Working Group 2024 under the theme, Ignite Awareness, Extinguish Negligence. Your responsibility, our future. I love that, right? But when we on the couch with us this morning, we have Miss Yahaira Urbina, who's the Maya Forest Corridor Site Manager, as well from the Wildlife Conservation Society of Belize, as well as Jamal Androin Bone, who is the Conservation Program Manager at the Belize Zoo and Tropical Education Center. So good morning to both of you. How are you both doing this morning?
Very impressive how you managed that mouthful of titles and words.
I don't know. Jamal, why did you hide your hand? But anyways,
wow.
I just had to because, bring with fire suits.
Can you give me a thumbs up right now, Jamal?
I can,
yeah. No, yeah, there you go.
2 hands.
But thumbs up because they're the fire group, right? So we want to discuss, we know that you guys are here, were here last year discussing some of the things that were happening, especially since the aftermath of Lisa. We were mind blown that we never realized that hurricanes can cause even more natural fires from coming, right? So this year, this year's group and the theme, what can we say about that?
So definitely this year, just to start with the Maya Forest Fire Working Group, this is something that we have been working together with Jamal, the zoo, and different partners within the MFC to establish it. So last year it was already there, but this year we're taking a different angle in actually bringing up this team is, to actually take in consideration, the team is saying that everybody's responsible for fire. Fire is used, a lot of times when we talk about fire, we think fire is negative, destructive, but fire can actually be good in certain habitats such as the savanna, which is a good regime for the type of habitat and for agricultural practices. But in those cases, we have to be very responsible how we use fires.
Definitely.
And that's what we want to promote this year is, for us, that all of us are responsible. It's not just the NGOs, it's not just the government, but the general public. We want everybody to be responsible in considering fire, because especially last year, we did our count, and just in the area that we are managing, it was at peak. When you monitor from the last decade to last year was the highest heat points that were detected in the NASA heat form points that we do.
Wow.
And within the area, March and April was just exponential. I don't know if you remember the smoke that was happening. It was just a lot of fires. We were within our group, we were busy that entire fire season. It's like one thing to the next, but this is the idea. We want to promote fire, the proper use of fire, and the working group is moving forward into discussing, and it's just not within a working group. We do have the forest department, so they are guiding us as well. So we are working collaboratively with our different partners, which includes Monkey Bay Foundation for Wildlife Conservation, the Belize Maya Forest Trust, and the Forest Department.
All right. So we know that last year when you were here, Jamal, yes, like you rightfully said, Yahaira, fires were just all over the place, and we know how busy you guys were, right? So in preparation for that, I had seen you guys on the highway, doing the managed fire drills, right? What is that looking like this year?
So for our area, we don't want to say it's a silver lining or a good thing, but because of the intensity of the burns last year, you would expect that there's a lower fuel load this year. So, everything all the substantial fuel that could have burnt has burnt. So that's good in a way. It doesn't mean there won't be any fires this year. It just means that the intensity, the ferocity will hopefully be less. We still have to be on our guard. We still have to be vigilant. We still have to prescribe burns, like you mentioned, in some areas. But the risk is always there. And even a simple, top running fire with a little bit of grass can carry a long way in the savannah. And the risk isn't, what we stress to people I know that the wildlife people, they up here and they worry about the animals. And what we stress and the challenge we always see with these fires is it has a very real threat to people, to assets, to livelihoods, to these communities that are out there with, all they have in a single home, sometimes on stilts with very little protection. If your fire that you set, that you didn't responsibly manage, goes into your neighbor's yard, you're liable, you're responsible. And that's the cliche we hear every time in the village. We have, it's almost comical where you hear the neighbor, or he cut the yard and he put some fire pan, a little bit of brush where he had the garden and check his beans. And by the time he come out, it's jumped into the neighbor's yard because they underestimate the heat.
Yeah.
The intensity of the breeze that day. All it takes is one little ember to jump from your yard into one that's not clean cut, and it starts an inferno. And so what we want the public to understand is we're not saying no use fire. As Zahara said, we're not here to condemn fire or to take it out completely. That's part of the challenge, is that we've removed fire in these areas for so long. There's so much fuel buildup, so when it does spark, no one can control it. It's use it responsibly, not just for your sake or the animals, but out of respect for your neighbor and out of the safety of the people in your community. You have that obligation. If you're going to use it, you have to take full responsibility. And so that's where we're trying to build these partnerships with the community. We respect that people need fire for farming, for milpa, for everything. It's an effective tool.
Use it, but like, how do you use it now?
Correct.
What are the steps to make sure that you're using it in an efficient way that doesn't cause damage to people around you or yourself?
Exactly. Air quality all over, right?
Right. Yeah, and as we saw with the air quality, it's not contained to your village and other that we business. It ends up impacting areas miles and miles away.
I remember the Valley of Peace. I remember the Valley of Peace, the soot and everything that was affecting that village. That was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we want to, last year was, as you pointed out, it was significant because it followed a hurricane. And so we hate being proven right, but every time there's a hurricane, the following dry season is terrifying.
Yeah.
It's on a scale that is very hard to manage. So
things are better this year.
In a way, but we're also having to contend with the fact that we still have climate change ongoing. So they're predicting, hotter, more intense drought periods. So hotter, drier conditions still can cause flare-ups, even if there's less fuel on the ground. So we still have to remain vigilant.
So partnering with people now in that educational process, what is that looking like?
So definitely one of the things that we've been doing, it entails a lot of different. Actually, this is one of our main activities, coming out, getting the general public. But when it talks to the Maya Forest Corridor, we are dealing with kids, having school visits, community meetings, involving the community for them to understand fire. And one of these activities is what we are going to have this weekend, trainings. Training communities to understand fire. And we have been trying to increase the capacity of our partners, but also community members within the Maya Forest Corridor, for them to understand what is fire, what actually the different components of fire, and how they can manage, if they're doing a fire, how they can manage that. Or if there's a fire, because last year we had several fires threatening Mahogany Heights, and they had some training, and so the first responders weren't the forest department or the fire department. It was the communities that got the training. So they were doing, and we want to continue that type of work to facilitate. And one of the big things this year is that we have also been, in conjunction with the U.S. Forest Service, they have been training us to get to that level of instructor level where you can increase that capacity in country. And so that's one of the things, our vision on a whole, that, fire is not an individual thing, it's a collaborative thing. Everybody needs to work with fire. So education is just one component, but then training and having people know about fire is important as well.
So it helps decentralize the emergency response. Fire service can't be everywhere at once. They have the towns and cities to deal with. So it really empowers these communities, not just with the training, but we've provided, in many cases, the tools that they need, the protective gear that we will outfit you all with when you come and visit us.
Yes.
The gear, the tools to contain these fires and defend their communities, because obviously who else has a vested interest than the people that live there? They want to ensure that their village doesn't burn down or their assets don't burn down. So that's been a powerful part of what we've been able to achieve, because not because we want it, it's because we have buy-in from the communities. They're the ones coming to us and say, watch out, we want to understand this better, give you the tools for do it, we and deal with it. We're calling if we need help, but we want to be at the forefront of defending our communities. So they have that passion and that interest. They just need the support to get to the point where they can do so safely.
And that's really important, the safety part too as
Mm-hmm.
well. And the fact that you have the resources, that you have, the knowledge to help them support that initiative. And as we're wrapping up this segment, for people that are listening right now and want that access, where do they go again to get the tips, to get the information, in case they're not in the training and they still want to be able to be a part of the conversation? Where can they go?
So the coalition the working group is broad, but they can start with just the partners here. So they can contact the Belize Zoo, they can contact WCS, and depending on their area, there are other players and agencies throughout the country. There's a very strong working group and presence in the south, for example, through Tide and the others. Their programs are developing in the north, but for the central area, we can give as much info and insight as we can, and training if they're in our area, but also direct them to other partners.
Just
So
gonna say that if
they
they're
can
up
start with
north or
us.
so, they can say, let's go to the Belize Zoo, WCS, and let's see exactly where can I go?
And just to add to that is actually in WCS, our campaign as well for this year, tips will be published in our social media, like, tips of fire and stuff like that. And they will have like their little trivias to win a bit of our campaign merchandise on fire. But within that, we will have some of these, like, those 10 components that you need to look out with a fire, things that you need to consider for a fire. So that's another way that our social medias will have information on fire.
Go to the Wildlife Society Conservation. Wildlife Conservation Society. My goodness, it's mixed up, guys. But please go out, and obviously they're going to be providing tips. You can also, again, contact the Belize Zoo, and also just go to the zoo for fun, man, and go and enjoy all that's happening. But guys, the theme this year, again, is Ignite Awareness, Extinguish Negligence, Your Responsibility, Our Future. So let's really remember that it's up to us too as well to make those calls, to be diligent, to be mindful, if not just for us, but for the people that are surrounding us too as well. And the people are passing at the street and so.
And highways.
And highway, yeah, exactly. So again, thank you guys for this conversation.
Yes, thank
We look
you.
forward
Thank
to
you for
seeing
having
the
it.
tips and all these different things, because knowledge is real power. And then from there, we're going to look on the training too as well this weekend. So we know it's going to be very fruitful.
Stop now, so you could send we out, make we get in our full firefighting costumes and
Yeah,
just deal with it.
fire.
Yes. Your beloved
Fire.
followers can hold you to that. They can hold you to task that they want to see you in
That's
gear
why we say,
with
that's
us.
why we say
We
that.
want extinguish
Remind them.
fire.
We are accountable here.
Exciting. So I also have to go to a commercial break, guys.